Well, hello and welcome, and thank you so much for just taking the time to be here with us. I'm very honored that you have taken the time and you are willing to be with us for the next hour. I know you're busy and you've got a lot of things going on, especially family time at this time. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we provide you as much information as we can in a very short period of time. I got to tell you, I was asked one time, why in the world am I doing this? Why am I doing a free Zoom call about tips and techniques on getting your next job opportunity? And I've been serving all my life. I've been serving all my life. And I got to tell you, I did 27 years in the Air Force. And after that, after about an 8-month break, I started working for the civil service as a civil servant for 17 years. So it's been many, many years that I've been serving, and that's all I know how to do. And that's why today I'm a coach. That's why I decided to start this new company called CoreWorkforceSolutions to help people find their next job opportunity, especially now under the federal government doing their restructuring and so many different federal employees who've decided to retire much earlier than they had planned. And what do you do after you retire? What do you do after you've been doing something for decades? Well, we have some tips and techniques that we want to share with you. And we are hopeful that you will tune in and connect with us and get as much information as you possibly can to prepare yourself for the next job opportunity, and stay in touch. And we will help you move to the next point that you need to get to in preparing yourself for the next job opportunity. Listen, I am totally honored to have with me on this particular session someone who I think is an absolute expert at this particular subject. She has been doing workforce development for a very long time, and I'm not going to leave anything out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my guest to come on, actually a co-host to come on, to kind of introduce herself and let everybody in the world, plus one, know who she is and know that we are here to help you.
Well, good evening, and thank you for joining us. And thank you, Melvin, for inviting me on. I am honored to always share and give insight and help those navigating their career. My name is Marlena Lane Court, and I have been in the workforce development field, the profession, for well over 15 years. Yes, I know I look very young. Thank you. However, I have such a passion to help those find their way in navigating the workforce landscape. It can be tough, it can be challenging and scary. So when Melvin asked me to come on today, I was very happy to do so. I have worked in various fields across the workforce development landscape and now working in grants and project management. So you just never know where your career paths will take you. So I am here today to help you navigate this landscape, this world as it is today. So I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to have this time with you all. So thank you for joining us, and we hope that you find this very helpful and pick up some nuggets along the way.
And we definitely do have nuggets to share. I'm telling you, and Marlena, again, thank you for the time that you're spending here with us. Um, I probably will go on too long and leave something out, so I'm sure you'll bring me back to where I need to be. And that's what it's all about, just making sure that you team up with the right people to help you get to where you need to go or would like to go. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to try to break down these tips and techniques. We're not going to give you hundreds and hundreds of different things. What we're going to do is we're going to try to kind of like bottle it all up. And in essence, we have something we call the 4T method, is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the 4T method, and we'll discuss a little bit about each of the T's. And once you remember and hang on to the 4T method and see how it works, I think you'll be in better position to get yourself ready for that next job opportunity. So we're going to take the next few minutes and talk about the 4T's, and the first one being take some time. That's a good one. And that's one that a lot of people kind of scratch their head and say, I don't have time to take time. Well, guess what? You have to. You have to. That's the first T in the 4T method. The second is what you need to do is target your job opportunity. You have to really get focused and kind of narrow down a top five or a top 10, but just a manageable group of organizations or companies you'd like to try to get hired by. Then we're going to talk about translating your resume. We might spend a lot of time on that particular one because how many people have an updated resume? I mean, if you have a job, why would you keep updating your resume, right? So, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then training for interviews. Training for interviews. So, we've got a lot to talk about in a very short period of time. And I don't want to spend too much time getting in the way. So, let's jump into the first T of the 4T method. It's called take time to recalibrate and recuperate. How important is this, Marlena? I'm telling you, how important is this?
It's very important because you have to refresh, as I say. You have to get yourself together to say, I have to regroup. I need to refocus. I need to but where do you start? And after running the hamster wheel that you've been running for so long, that's all your brain is focused on. So you have to find a way to unplug and say, let me give myself some time so that way I can figure out what I'm going to do next. But in the meantime, you need to relax. You need to take time to just say, this is about me. I need to take some time for me because you probably haven't done it. When you're working, you don't think about taking that time just to refresh, to unplug from social media, to unplug from those emails. You need some time to just clear your head. I know back in 2019 when I lost my job, at first I was literally in a state of shock. I have never ever involuntarily lost employment in all the years I had been working. But the next day, I just said, you know what? You haven't had any time since you started working ever to just say, let me refocus. Let me take some time to clean my house. You need to clear your head. So that month and a half that I was off, I took time with my kids. I took time to not even think about goals and writing vision boards out. I literally took time to sleep. My husband recently lost his job a couple of months ago. And again, he was in the automotive industry for several years, and we just knew everything was good. But with the landscape the way things are now, is things change and shifted. And he said, I had a vacation plan and I don't know if I should take it. I said, you absolutely need to take it. One, it was going to give me a break. But honestly, he needed that time after working and commuting and going back and forth in just our day to day lives to say, okay, I need some time to figure out what I need. Your mental health is important, and that's why it's important to recalibrate and recuperate. He
But,
took
but
a
let,
week.
let me ask you a question here, though. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Sure, you're good.
I mean, it's easier said than done. I remember a long time ago one of my mentors said to me, the best thing for a person who just lost their job or just left the job is to go on a cruise. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, the most important thing in a person's mind is to get another job. And then you go through the emotional roller coaster of just being let go. How do you handle that? When you start taking time off, it's like, how do you get yourself together? I know you should, but how do you?
It's think of it like this, and I hate to take it to this, like as we talked about this before, that Debbie Downer moment. You're going through a moment of grief, just as if you're going through that time. If you've lost a loved one or a pet or something like that, you take that time to say, I'm grieving. I need to get my to kind of refocus and get my mind together. You're going to be grieving the loss of employment. So taking that time to reshift and taking that time to say, you know what? It is going to be all right. And allowing that peace to come in over you. And so that way, when you come back and you get back in the game, you have totally settled all your business from before. You've gotten rid of some of the thought processes that you've had for that moment to say, I need to reshift and refocus. But let me clear my head first. Let me figure out what I need so that way I can be prepared when that opportunity comes up.
Is there a period of time that a person should take to just kind of recuperate?
I'm going to tell you the truth, Melvin. That's going to depend on the individual. Some are ready to bounce right back just because they need that. I don't necessarily recommend it, even for myself. It took me a month and a half. I absolutely didn't think that it would be that period of time, but I needed it. And no matter what I did, no matter how often I applied and where I applied when it was my time, it happened when it happened. But it gave me a moment to literally get my business in order. Same with my husband. For him, it was a month. It was a little less than what it was for me. So for everybody, it's going to be different. But accepting it, it's going to be up to that individual on taking that time to say, I accept this what it is. I accept the situation for what it is. Now, what do I need to do so that way I can be prepared for that next level?
And Marlena, I've heard of so many of my colleagues telling me stories of former federal workers who are really having a very difficult time. Um, and to me, it seems to be something that they need to speak to somebody, talk to somebody, even get professional help. Do you recommend that?
I absolutely do. This is, and I would say when I was in the profession as a case manager, that was the role that I played, because you need someone to just kind of be that cheerleader in your corner to just say it's okay. That tangible voice to say it's okay. You just need to take a moment so then that way we can help re-navigate when that time comes. But having a career coach, having a therapist, again, you're talking about your mental health. You're talking about going through a period of time that can be so tough. You're talking about your financial stability at risk at this point, because now you're thinking about, I had this paycheck coming in every week or every 2 weeks. That's not going to happen. And you don't know how long it's going to take for it to happen again. So that's why it's good to have someone that's on your team to say, I got you. I'm right here in your corner so I can help you navigate this time, because of the fact that it's going to be a little hard for you and it's
Yeah,
going to help you get over that hump.
and I think it's important. And I'm constantly thinking about a vacation. I'm actually thinking about unplugging, not just sitting around the house wondering what you're going to do next, but actually going on a short cruise. I love these 3 day cruise or whatever, 3 day, 4 night cruise, just to get away. And I will tell you real quickly about going on a cruise is if you're stressed out, more than likely you're either not eating well or eating less, losing weight, or you're eating a lot. Uh, Let me stop. because that's probably me more than anybody. So, but if you go on a cruise, you're going to eat and you're going to meet a lot of people who are on a cruise just to have a good time and to unplug. So that's what you really want to do. I'm not saying go on a cruise, but just take a vacation to unplug so you can recuperate and get your mind recalibrate. Because when you come back, you need to be focused. You really
Yes.
need to be focused, which takes us to our next topic here, or our next T, which is called target your next job opportunity. You have to be focused, and once you get past the first initial emotional roller coaster that you're going to go through, then you're going to start to be really focused and start looking at the job opportunities. What in the world are we talking about when we say target your next job opportunity, Marlena?
Well, this is where I come up. It's the term I use is bag. BAG. B as in boy, A as in apple, G as in Gary. This is where you start to plan your big audacious goals. What is it that you really want to do? What makes you happy? Is it working with the community? Is it working in schools? Is it, do you want to go into corporate America if you're transitioning from, let's say, the nonprofit world? Whatever it may be, this is the time for you to honestly say, this is what I want to do because you want to be happy ultimately. If you don't have a plan, it's kind of your, as you said, your target. You have to have something in front of you to say, this is what I'm aiming for. How you get there, that's part of the whole plan. That's the best part as of when you do have a coach to help you navigate the path of getting to that target, but you have to set the target. So, figuring out what it is that you want to do, looking at the skills that you've acquired, look at the hobbies you may have, and what is it, how can you turn that into, okay, this is going to be my target career. This is what I want to do. You may be trans um, transitioning out of, let's say, production or manufacturing and going into education or going into the healthcare field. Well, how are you going to do that? If you don't have a target set, how do you even know what does it take for you to get there? So planning and putting together some type of path for yourself to say, this is what I want to do. That's what you're going to need to do. So at least you know where you're going. It's like setting your personal GPS. The ultimate destination is that goal of that next job opportunity and where you want to go. But again, they show you all the steps on how do you get there, and that's what you're preparing for.
And,
So
and
go
I
ahead,
can
Bill.
see how those emotions can cause people not to be focused and not think of the target or think all over the place. And by having a coach or a mentor or someone to kind of, re focus them on the target would be very helpful. And I would also add, Marlena, that when you want to target your job opportunity, don't go after everything.
Right.
Don't try to do everything. Now, like you said earlier, people want to get back to work, especially if they've been working for decades. So they may take almost anything because they're worried about their income, their status of life, and their means, everything. So they'll take anything. But it might not be the job that they really love doing, and it might be a temporary thing. So I would suggest when you get your target, when you're focusing on your next job opportunity, to come up with five. What is your top five companies or top five opportunities you want to focus on? Go as much as 10. But come up with a list of companies or organizations you want to focus on and spend the majority of your time doing research on those companies. Am I off base? Am I near
No,
where I
you're hitting the
need to
nail
be
on the
there?
head. You're absolutely hitting the nail of the on the head. And again, it could be all over the place because that's part of goal setting. You have to throw those ideas, throw the paint against the wall. But what you're doing is now you're picking apart as to what does that look like for me? What is it that I really want to do? And as you're taking that time to say, well, I want to work for NASA, or I want to work for General Motors, or I want to work for, Advent Health, whatever it may be, you have to throw that down there. So then that way you can say, okay, are these some possibilities? And then that's how you start coming up with that process of elimination. What is it going to take for me to get there? And this is why it's important to have a coach.
Yeah, and you really want to be efficient with your time because the more you're floundering, not knowing which direction you should take, the more frustrated you'll get, and you find yourself back in the emotional roller coaster. It's going to take some time, but I believe with the help of others, you'll get there. You'll get there smartly too. So that's the first four, the first two of the 4T. I think I got it right. So
You
you
got
want to take time to take care of yourself, and that way you can recuperate. You can get ready to start focusing on the next job opportunity. That's the second T of the 4T method. The third T is, I think we can spend a lot of time here. That's
yes.
when you talk about translating your resume. And as I just said, for most folks who are working, I doubt if their resumes are updated because they already had a job. They are working. So why would you update your resume? So this definitely is going to be something that you're going to have to focus on. But you got to get yourself together first. You got to get your mind back to where it needs to be by taking some time. You got to focus on a target so that you know how to adjust your resume. So how important is it to translate your resume? And exactly what are we talking about when we say translate your resume, Marlena?
So translating your resume, basically breaking down your skill set, all the skills that you have acquired over the years in your most current role that you served in, whatever that may be, and actually articulating that on paper. So that way, that interviewer, that employer that you want to apply with, they are able to actually see, oh, well, this person has a background in finance in whatever capacity they worked in finance. How do you articulate that on paper? And that's why it's very, very important for you to take that time to refresh your brain, because we don't think about what we do day to day. We just do it. We're literally, that brain muscle is just working day to day because that's what our normal routine is. But now I have to actually go in and type that out. I have to go in and think about those trainings and certifications that I've acquired on time, all over time. And how do I put that on paper? It could also be any volunteering roles that you may have served in a leadership capacity. People think, I didn't get paid for that, so I can't put that on paper. Yes, you can. It's still work of some sort. So, using anything that you have acquired over time, that you've worked in over time, taking that information and putting that again in that resume, but breaking that down for an employer is going to be important. And it's going to be important, how do you do that? Especially for federal workers or for any individual that served in the military. How do you translate those skill sets from you serving onto, how can I use that in the civilian world? Or how can I translate that for any employer that's outside of the government, or whatever capacity it may be, whatever sector it may be, to say, this is how this relates to this job. So,
Yeah, I was just thinking about someone who is trying to get a job in the civilian sector, and on his resume it says GS-13. What in the world does GS-13 mean? That's a part of translating it to whatever the company that you're looking at. Try to put it in layman's terms, so to speak, so that they can understand it. But not only that, I got to ask you this question too, because it seems easy just to grab your resume and start retyping it, but not too many people are good at putting resumes together. I mean, should you pay somebody to do a resume? And I'm not too much on paying somebody to do a resume, but because we have our good friend. You know who our good friend is, right?
Hey, Chat GPT and Copilot. Those are my best buds. The friendly world of AI, artificial intelligence. We just to chime in here for a minute, Melvin, we look at these tools like, oh my goodness, they're making us lazy. No, they're not. They're exactly that. They're tools. And I utilize those tools as guides. If you take that information, let's say you were in the army or whatever capacity or some very high profile role, you could take that information and plug it in and have them translate the resume for you so you can break it down for an employer. Because you got to remember, we need to make this as simplified as possible because you want to get that phone call. So utilize AI as a tool, as a guide to help you along, unless you want to pay an exorbitant amount of money for a resume to be developed for you, and that's not necessary at all. So, utilizing the tools that we have in today's age as your guide, and this is where the coach can also say, "Hey, I did this." You could go to your coach. I used AI, I used all these tools. Now I need to have someone help review it for me. Can you help me tailor it so that way I don't sound fake? I need to be transparent. I need to still be me, but I still want to sound professional and I want to sound like I know what I'm talking about. So that's where your coach comes into play to help you tailor it for you. Go ahead, Melvin.
I will tell you this though, but you have to use that friend, everybody's friend, Chat GPT. I call him Chet. That's trying to put him in disguise. It's not Chat, it's Chet, my friend Chet. You have to be careful here too. And like Marlena said, it's very important to get someone, a coach, a mentor, a friend, or someone you trust to read your resume after you use AI. I would also say grab one of those job opportunities, top 5 that you have, and then get your resume and ask Chet to match your resume with those jobs.
Yes.
And it'll do a pretty good job of kind of saying, oh, you need to say this, 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 and this. But please use AI as a tool. You really need to put human eyes on your resume. And it may not be your human eyes. It may be somebody else, and it should be somebody else, like a coach or a mentor, so that they can give you some real honest feedback. Because what's in the resume is really you. And I found, Marlene, I'm going to say this before we move on to the next one. Before AI became extremely popular, this is an example of a resume not matching the individual. I had a person who had applied for one of my positions, and as I'm reading his resume, I'm thinking, this dude is either a lawyer or a CPA or a CPA who is a lawyer or a judge, a lawyer, and a CPA, because this resume is outstanding. And he should be a bank president because good night. So the resume was one that I said, call him now. Let's start him after lunch. This guy lasted 60 days in my company
Mm.
because he was not the person who was in the resume.
Mm-hmm.
It was overblown, oversold, and hiring managers know how to evaluate resumes. So
Yes, they
that's why
do.
it's important to get AI to help you, but you really need real people to give you feedback. You should never walk away from your resume and say, woo, I don't know who that is, but that guy's going to get a job. Shouldn't be that
And
good.
that's the truth. That's the absolute truth. You want to make sure, again, it's you. You want to make sure that your resume is a direct reflection of all those skills that you have acquired over the years. And if you blow it up too much or have all these additional buzzwords that no one can pronounce or understand. You have to be careful with jargon. That's where the tools come in handy, but that's where your coach will help guide you through to say, yeah, we got to get some of these buzzwords out of there. Or we need to, did you really do this? And really challenge you so that way what you're presenting yourself and you're not presenting a representative of what you want to be. So go
And
ahead,
it's easy
Melvin.
to do, and you really have to pay attention to this. And I know we probably zip through this much quicker than we should, but I developed a course on writing resumes. I used to write resumes before AI came into play, and I did a pretty good job. Unfortunately, I was never hired from the resumes I wrote on myself. But everybody else seemed to have gotten great jobs. so,
Seems to work like that sometimes.
so I guess I figured I'd help other people out by creating a course and talking about putting together resumes. Now, if you look at the 4T method, we talked about taking some time for yourself. We also talked about targeting the job opportunities. And what I really mean by that is, hey, don't go all over the place. Maybe narrow it down to 5. But not only that, do some research of the company to find out who's running the company, what's the culture like, what are some of the other things that you should do when you're looking at the job opportunity or the employer. Are there any things that you should be looking for, Marlena?
Of course, really look at, again, if you were, depending on the sector you're coming from, look at to see what skills are transferable. And what does that mean? What skills did you learn or have you acquired that can transfer into a particular job? It may not say it verbatim, but that's where you sit back to do your research. And that's where you take your time to go through to say, okay, what is it that they're looking for? Maybe you start tapping into, whether it's individuals working at the job. Again, this is where your career coach comes in. It comes in handy. They may not know everything, but they can help guide you in such a way. There's some tools out there. We have so many online tools that we can use to say, okay, I need to be able to research, I need to be able to figure this out and break this down. um, as you're looking at different job descriptions, I have seen people literally take the job description and just plug it into your resume. Don't do that. But those are things that your coach are going to help guide you on. And you have to sit down to look at, how can I translate what I know for this job to make sure I'm a best fit. Remember, your resume is that handshake, your cover letters, which, again, when you get an opportunity to go further within the coaching opportunities that are offered, those are your handshakes into that organization. So you got to make sure that handshake is firm and genuine. That's how what you're going to represent on that resume. So,
And if you're not an author or one who writes so lavishly, like Marlena said about AI, use the tool. Use the tool. Now, if
absolutely.
you look at the 4 T's we just talked about in the order, get your mind right by taking some time and targeting your job opportunity and translating your resume. When we were talking about translating your resume, I was thinking about an Army Sergeant Major. I have no idea what that means in civilian term. I
Right.
know that that person is both a sergeant and a major, so that person must be a bad person. On both
And
sides.
what does that mean? What did you do day to day as a sergeant major? How can you break that down?
And most people in the military would know exactly what a sergeant major does. But when it comes to the civilian sector, that's a difficult thing to translate. That's why translating your resume is critical. So those are the 3 things that prepare you for the 4th T. The 4th T, which is interesting because the 4th T is, let's see if I can get it up here. It is when you are training for the interview. And guess what? Those first 3 things have to happen first before you get that call.
That's right.
Talk
That's
about
right.
the interview. What are we saying when we say train for the interview?
Okay, so your mind is refreshed. You've gotten your goals together. You know exactly what your target is. We've gotten that resume all polished, and you get that phone call, and now you have to come prepared. So XYZ company calls you. Don't go to the interview and you haven't done your research. At least take your time to understand and know what products or services they offer. What type of organization are they? Have they some organizations even put it in their vision or their mission? We are family friendly or family owned. Understand what direction they're coming from and prepare yourself for questions as well. Remember, when you get that interview and you're going to talk to the employer and this is their time for them to kind of get their feel on what type of person you are, that's what it is. They want to see whether or not you're coming in with some tendencies that they can pick up on right away. But this is also the opportunity for you as a job seeker to interview that employer. So when you do that, take some time to come up with a couple of questions for yourself. Why is this job open? Why is the opportunity available? How long are you anticipating for it to take for to fill this role? Because you may be waiting. If you were to get called, it could be another 3 to 6 months. Do you want to wait that long? um, and then even ask yourself what type of work environment do they offer? Is it hybrid? Is it something you're really looking for? Some things may not necessarily all be explained in the job advertisement. So these are some questions you want to come up with, at least 2 to 3 questions of your own.
Now
Go ahead,
that's
Mel.
taking it, Marlena, as if people are extroverts and they have what it takes to go to an interview and say the right things, ask the right question. And I will tell you, I've had some extremely qualified people come in to an interview and just flopped. They
Hmm.
couldn't talk. They were just extremely nervous. Nothing came out, or most of their answers were 1 or 2 words. Didn't match what the resume said, because the resume is the reason why you are at the interview. But if you don't sell yourself, so my question to you is this: how would you advise a person who is an introvert on how to prepare for an interview?
Practice, practice, practice. And who can you do that with? Your career coach, your mentor. Take that time to, you can't anticipate everything, but there's enough tools. Google, again, we just talked about a couple of our buddies that we love, to anticipate some possible interview questions and behavioral questions that are asked. And this is that time for you to interact with that coach and with that mentor and say, okay, I need to help get some of these nerves off of me. I need to make sure I'm going in confident. I'm going in not cocky, but confident and sure that I am the best fit for this job. And I need to be able to portray that. So if you don't take that time to practice it, if you don't take that time to just understand, okay, this is what I could be up against. You may have 2 or 3 people, you may have a panel, but this is where you take that opportunity to practice over and over again.
Well, I want to do a quick scenario. All right. Let's say you're a candidate and I'm a hiring manager. Here's a question that I've heard, I've asked, and people have told me about. And I would like to hear how you would respond to this question during an interview. Here's the question: why should I hire you?
I hate that question. No. Honestly, you should hire me because I have the skill set that you're looking for. I have completed this role over several years. I've worked in this capacity, And because of the fact that I know what I bring to the table, but not just what you're looking for today, but how we can take it to the next level. And how do you articulate that information? Not just practicing it and rehearsing it, but you honestly believe in this is what I can do. And this I'm bringing to the table a skill set that you need. You don't have that. That's why you're hiring for it.
That's good. That's real good. I mean, because that question does come up. Why should I hire you?
Hmm.
And if I can, I'd like to add just a little bit to what you said. It's important as a candidate to show that you're going to bring some value to the company that you're trying to be hired by. So if you are really telling everything about yourself, remember to tie in how you can impact the company in a positive way. So, yeah, I have all of these skills and certification, and I notice that you and your company really are focusing on this particular part of the technology. And I think I can really add some value to the team where we can accomplish some great things. So you almost have to negotiate yourself as being on their team, because as a hiring manager, I want to hear, what are you going to do for me?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
So practicing is very good, as you said, Marlena, but I would also suggest that do as much practice as you can, but make sure you go through mock interviews to get yourself prepared, because I will tell you this, you're never going to have the script of questions that you
Right.
think are going to be asked. There's going to be a question asked that you never saw coming.
If absolutely. And another thing I wanted to add with that, Melvin, we we have interviews, or we have been interviewed, and we have interviewed individuals, or you yourself have been asked this question as far as, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What did you not like about your job? You're going to get those types of questions because they're behavior questions. They want to understand your character. And those are different points that we really need to be careful with, because there's a way to overcome them, to always be positive. And you turn that around. If you have a weakness with time management, yeah, I have a weakness with time management, but however, there were some tools that I've implemented that I use. Do you offer those tools? Because I'd like to continue to use those tools so that way I can be that much better or improve on that skill. And when you are finding ways to overcome those, what that can be negative impacts on you, then that's what employers also want to see. So you have to know how to be able to articulate that in the interview.
That's important. And one of the questions I had asked one of the candidates who came, I think this was probably in 2014, maybe. She was well prepared. She was well relaxed. She thought she had the job before she even walked out the door. I'll tell you
Mm.
two examples real quickly. I had to ask her a question that was not on the script. I'd ask her, Marlene, I said, why would I believe that the person who I'm talking to now is going to be the same person 6 months from now if I hire you?
Mm. Oh,
That's a question, isn't it?
yes, it is.
I
That's
want I want to know, because most people send their what they call it, their representative to an interview or to do the resume, and then all of a sudden you realize this is not the person who I interviewed. Well,
yes.
this individual, the candidate, said to me, she thought about it for a second or two, and she said, I am who I am, so this is who you're going to get.
Plain
So
and
I
simple.
hired her. I said, okay. I wasn't looking for any specific answer, but she was very honest. She said, I am who I am, so you're going to get what you get. And I
Yeah.
said, okay. Another example, real quickly. I had a person, oh, when you're in the interviews, and we do have training for interviews too, mock interviews, things to say and things not to say. Listen to this, Marlene. This is going to be something else. I had a young lady come in, interviewed nicely, was ready to be hired and everything, had all of the competencies and skills and knowledge of things. I'm like, this is going to be a great hire. And
Mm.
then all of a sudden, this was before COVID, of course, she'd asked the question, do you guys do telework? Yes, we do. Do you do remote work? Well, that was way back before COVID. So remote work was not that popular back then, especially from an old military person. Oh, you have to be here.
Every day.
She said, I said, well, why you ask? We have telework. We can make an arrangement. And she said, because I live in Hanover, which is 150 miles away. Me and my husband, we have a taxi service. And I'd like to know if I can drive up every once in a while if I have to come in. That was just too much. Way too much
That's what
information.
not to say.
That was at the end of the interview when I said, do you have anything to ask, anything to add? She already had the job up until that point when she said, me and my husband have a taxi service. And I'd just like to know if I can spend most of my time 150 miles away. So, needless to say, she
This is
wasn't
why it's
hired.
important to talk to your coach.
That's right. The four T's. Take time to rest and recuperate. Get your mind right. You want to make sure you do the targeting of your job opportunities so you can stay focused on your top 5. You also want to translate your resume. Make sure you translate that resume and make sure you say or at least discuss some of the things that you've done well.
Yeah. Yep.
Use the tools like Marlena was saying. That's the 4 T's. It helps you. And then when you go to the interview, be prepared to go to the interview. Just
Yes.
be prepared and also be prepared to not be selected. But here's the last question before we move on, Marlena. Sometimes it takes a long time to get that first call for an interview.
Yep.
And then other times is the opposite of that. You get a call for an interview, and before you hung up the phone, you got another call from another company saying, we'd like for you to come in for an interview. You might have 2 or 3 people giving you job opportunities. How should one handle that situation?
Well, if you have a couple of opportunities on deck, we'll handle that leg first. There are a couple of opportunities that come your way. Again, this is why it's important. We're going to go back to that second T. Once you set your target, that's where you need to stay focused on. Of course, we're going to look at factors such as, the salary or, the commute and all of that. You need to take a look at what's in it really for you at that point. And once you really realize, okay, this is the opportunity that really fits my lifestyle and really what I need, that's going to help you determine and make that decision. Even if the other one is another $30,000 or $40,000 more, but you really have to be honest with yourself. If this is not if you have not done this before, this is the time more than ever to be honest about what you actually need. And that's why it's important to goal set. That's why it's important to set that target. So that's that leg. Look at what you really need, what your focus is, and does this align with the goals that you originally set? On the other leg, when you've taken a lot of time to apply, you've gotten some phone calls, but you haven't gotten yet that actual call to say, yeah, we want to go ahead and hire you. You do have to remain diligent. You do still have to remain focused. One thing that I used to tell my job seekers all the time, when you're job searching, it is a full time job. You have to set yourself a schedule, set yourself some time so you can actually say, Okay, I'm going to allot 2 hours every day to make sure I'm job searching until you get that opportunity that you actually want to get to. Because that's your job, is to make sure that you're keeping yourself on track. And that's how you kind of stay, I don't want to say get back into that structured environment that you've been used to, but that's how you keep yourself at the pace that you need to, and making sure that you're working yourself towards your goal. You still have to work at it, and you do have to continue to remain hopeful and resilient to keep trying to move forward.
And don't go at it alone. If you go at it
Absolutely.
alone, you're going to be lost in the desert and you're not going to know which way to turn, and you're going to be becoming more and more lost in the desert. But you have to have somebody, and it could be anybody. But I keep saying mentor, coach, or a friend, or a former supervisor who you had great relationship with, or even a colleague.
Mhm.
Like I said, a great friend who has this company, Dream Differently. She's a coach, and I mean, she offers a lot of great information on how to recalibrate your brain, your mind, and your thought process so that you can continue to move forward. That's what it's all about. But don't go at it
Absolutely.
alone. And I hope we provided enough tips here in this short, compacted time to help you. We wanted to talk to you real quickly about the 4T method. Just remember the 4T method. Take time to recalibrate and recoup and get yourself some rest. Marlena said that earlier. Oh, just to get a good day of sleep really, really quickly in 30 seconds or less. When I retired from the military, I never thought I would do this, but I slept a lot. But not only that, I didn't get out of bed until first thing in the morning so I can watch that 12 noon ESPN Sports Center.
You
I
had
was
goals.
resting
That was good.
first thing in the morning at 12 p.m. But do rest and get yourself together so when you are going to target your job opportunities, that's what Marlena was talking about. That's a job. And take
Yes.
it seriously. Get some help. Stay focused. Update your resume. Translate the the acronyms and the different things that people might not understand. Use AI. Get yourself
Mhm.
ready for that interview because you're going to be called. And the
Yes.
job that you never thought you're going to have is going to be that job that you're going to be saying every day, I love my job.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love my job. And that's amazing. So, listen, in some closing comments, I want to say that use as many resources as you possibly can. And Marlena talked about those resources. Some other resources that you might add here, Marlena?
Um, Definitely, there are all types of job sites. You can go to LinkedIn. You can find Melvin at CoreWorkforceSolutions.com. You can even reach out to me if you'd like. Marlena Lane Cork on LinkedIn. Um, my email address is corklangroup23 at gmail.com. But take your time to really sit down and pinpoint which way you want to go. But it's important that you really sit down with someone to help you come up with a plan. And once you do that, that'll help you get yourself on the right track to your goals and achieving your goals.
Absolutely. And it's a process, so it's not going to happen overnight. If you get rehired within a month, that's fantastic. That's unusual, but that's fantastic. You have to be resilient and keep going at it. I want to leave something with you here. I created this checklist for some folks, and it's like the five secrets, I call it, that people who are looking for jobs, if you get this checklist and kind of follow this checklist, it will help prepare you to continue to stay focused. So all you have to do is go to the website here, coreworkforcesolutions.com/Zoom call, and download this checklist. It's a free checklist for you to help you out. Let me know what's going on. Let me and Marlena know what's going on. She just told you her contact information. If you need to get in touch with her, and like I said, she is an expert at what she does. And when you talk about workforce development, That's not just hiring or helping somebody become hired. That's helping an organization get the right people for the jobs within the organization. And not just one, it's across the board. And Marlena has been doing a magnificent job at what she does. And so there's her contact information. Feel free to reach out to her and contact her, ask her some questions that we may not have covered. You can also get in touch with me. And here's my contact information. And again, we didn't have enough time to talk about everything that we possibly could talk about. But I will tell you, you get in touch with either Marlena or myself, and we can lead you into some of those areas where you can find more resources. I have courses that I've already designed that takes each one of the 4 T's and really drills down. And we can talk about that some other time. But we really want to help you be successful. We really want to help you get into your next job opportunity so that you can go into the next chapter of your life. Marlena, I'm going to allow a little bit of time for you to say your last few words before I said thank you again.
Oh, well, again, I just want to say thank you, Melvin, for having me on. It was an absolute honor. It's always an honor where we have an opportunity to, one, work together, but to be invited in a space to connect with job seekers. But I will say this, and I actually have to admit, I stole this quote from my husband. And the quote is, don't forget, don't chase the money when you forget the dream. Don't forget your dream. Just know what it is that you want to do and then come up with the plan on how you're going to get there. And that's what we're here to help you with. So just know you're not in this alone. Thank you,
That's
Melvin.
fantastic. Absolutely. I love that. And I talked about my friend who's got Dream Differently. I love the words dream because, so many times we are so frustrated with daily life. And when we are asked to leave or forced out of a job, we are so emotionally distraught that we stop dreaming.
Yeah.
We stop believing that there are better times ahead. And sometimes it's really, really difficult to get beyond those distractions. And losing a job or retiring early is a distraction. I had a person who worked for me once who said she's afraid to retire. And she really meant it. I'm afraid to retire because I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I don't know how I'm going to survive.
Yeah.
And retiring and leaving your job that you've been for a long time, it's a scary thing, especially if you were let go, Marlena, like you were talking about, and like you said with your husband. And that happens. That happens. People are let go, I won't say all the time, but it's not uncommon. And so you have to get through that emotional turmoil that you go through. And that's why it's important to link up with people like Marlena and myself to help you help yourself get to where you want to get to. Keep dreaming. Marlena, thank you so much. Thank you for teaching me more than I could have ever learned in the time that I've known you. We've known each other for a good little while, and I'm telling you, every time we've had the opportunity to talk, I've learned so much more, and I really appreciate you and your family. And I think your husband is tremendous, especially as a bowler and a golfer. I watch him in awe. I'm like, wow, this guy is so
Yes.
good. He reminds me of me when I was in my 30s. Yeah, I used to
Well,
watch a lot of sports, never played it.
never played them. That's all right. And
Thank
he
you all
does
so
that.
much for being here with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please make sure you go to coreworkforcesolutions.com/home, or actually /Zoom call. Connect with me. I'll connect you with Marlena. We'll see you the next time. And take care of yourself and take care of your family. So long, everybody.
Good night.